Good morning, Catrina Sheridan. I
Good
have you on.
morning,
I'm recording. Us over 50s on Zoom. Well, me anyway. Definitely not you. Queen of technology. So, how are you? How are you
I'm
coping?
great. Not a bother. Not a bother. We're all good
on
here.
it. You're looking great on it. How's the lockdown been for you? Well, first of all, let me just put a brief picture on who you are. So, Catrina Sheridan, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Strategist in British Telecom when they were in Ireland, yes? Marketing guru all through, as long as I know you. You've got all that marketing stuff going on. At one stage you were on our board for a number of years, and then you went on to work for different charities. Then you had 2 startups that you successfully began, all in the tech industry. And now you are you're a mentor for Enterprise Ireland. You're a mentor on the Stanford Seed program, is it? Is that what it is, project?
Yeah.
You have to explain that to me because it's the most magnificent university. We're talking about Stanford now in New England, yeah?
In the US, yeah.
Yes,
in the US.
In the university briefly, and it is one of the most magnificent places I've ever been. So tell me, first of all, I'm dying to hear about that. Tell me, how did you pull that off and what do you do? Before we talk about your African project, talk to me about that mentorship.
Well, it kind of came from the African project. So Debbie, thanks so much for all you've been doing actually for all of us in the lockdown. It's been great hearing you talk to all these really interesting people. So I'm still a Luddite in tech, but I think what I try to do is bring the humanity into tech, and Nafasi is all about that. It's kind of taking the enterprise play and putting it in a tech format, and I think
Nafasi is your latest project, which is explain now in a nutshell what Nafasi is.
Yeah, so a lot of startups, as you know, they often need capital and they need mentoring at the start of their process. And I suppose Africa, as you know, is a huge, big continent of people. Like the working population of Africa is going to exceed the combined working population of India and China that have aging populations. So we really need to get a working Africa who's working for itself. So Nafasi is a different entry point. Today, about 60 billion of foreign direct investment goes into Africa, which is more focused at the infrastructure, so building roads, building telecom infrastructures. And about 50 billion goes into the aid community, which is all about working with people in health sectors and education sectors. And Nafasi is a different entry point, which is supporting startup entrepreneurs. So there's a big gap in the market because there was only 725 million of startup capital in African markets. And we know that SMEs are the way to grow the economy. If we look at our own economy here in Ireland, there's about 70% of people employed actually are from SMEs. So it's about Africa helping itself. It's about Africa having agency. And what we're doing now is using the power of technology to allow money to be given in a peer-to-peer way so that you know where your money's gone to. And then equally, we ask the startup to identify how they've used the money. And then we're also using mentorings in a digital way. So again, using things like Zoom, WhatsApp and whatever else to actually take all that talent from what we refer to the global north and allow people to volunteer to provide mentoring to organizations in the global south.
Okay, and tell me, Catrina, how has the lockdown, how has the virus affected your plans? Because I know you were really, really rolling, like you were looking for funding, you were going to the States, you were on a mission. How has it affected you? Is it a setback?
Well, actually, in a way, it's accelerated it. Now, I think the show me the money moment hasn't occurred yet, but I think people are much more open to the idea now because, if we even look at government institutes now, a lot of them are working remotely. And I think the biggest, thing of this lockdown has been the behavioral changes. And that's, what's kind of really been exciting to me to see that, you know, I've worked virtually for about 20 years now. And, you know, when I started out in BT, I, you know, kind of got this global job, and suddenly I had a team all over the world. And you're kind of saying, okay, how do I manage a team globally? And no one gave you the how-to manual. You just got up and do it. And that's, I think, what's happening now, where, you know, even Solace, an organization I'm on a board now, you know, everyone's working globally and working from home rather. And, you know, that's, I suppose, something that it's not as good as face-to-face, but you can certainly do business globally as well. And I think Nafasi is all about a different type of development, where we're saying to the youth of Africa to say, look, you guys are digitally savvy people. Like, Africa moved to mobile before landline. And I've seen in Africa the use of, say, money moving via mobile, called the M-Pesa. That's been hugely advanced versus here in the West, so to speak. And, you know, it's applying that logic to say, okay, well, you know, how can we build trust in terms of how charitable money is given and received, and the use of technology. So it's a technology called distributed ledger technology, which we use to show where we got the money from and how the money was used. So it's providing a 360 view of that, you know.
And tell me, how do you find, like, with all you've done, you've 3 gorgeous boys, working mom, obviously, I mean, and heavily involved in, you know, the corporate world for a very long time. How do you balance it all, Catrina?
I don't. I had a lot of great help. So I had a Filipino nanny for 13 and a half years. And I think, you know, behind every great woman is a great man. So a bit like you, Debbie, you know, I have a rock and continue to have a rock in my husband, Noel.
Camera that you lock yourself into.
Exactly. So, you know, so there's no super moms here, you know. It's about actually the support system around you. And you know, I've been very lucky to have that, and I think that's what women need as well. You know, I think my whole thing on women, and it's all about the intersectionality. It's about men supporting women, it's about women supporting men. We're all humans at the end of the day. I don't like this kind of male versus female thing. Yeah, of course we've got to exercise our power, but we've also got to bring the men into the equation here. So for me, with 3 boys, you know, I have to bring them up to be decent men who appreciate diversity and the power of women, you know. I hope. It doesn't always feel that way.
You were brought up on a farm, am I right?
That's right. Yeah.
You said something lovely to me recently. We were talking about eating meat, and I was fascinated. We were just texting one night about it, and you said something like you only got it about once a week anyway, because it was the people that had cattle. It was for sale only. Is that right? Was that what you were?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I suppose, you know, it's kind of interesting now, because we're obviously going into a new formation of government, and you know, I am fully into the climate change agenda. Believe me, you know, I've seen it firsthand. You know, droughts and floods and people actually dying and hunger and all of those things. But I think we need to be, you know, not attacking the farmers, because it's their livelihoods. It's not just, you know, it's not just about a work for them. It's about land that has been in their family for hundreds and hundreds of years, that they've fought hard for. And it's not an easy ride being a farmer. It's 365 days of the year. And you know, I think for me, it's kind of interesting to see in America now, they're really struggling with their food supply, because the whole ecosystem has become so concentrated in a few big entities. And what's happening now is those big entities are getting attacked with COVID. So when you have a concentration of power and a concentration of supply, you have insecurity. So, I mean, when it comes to farmers and climate change, if you look on the global world spectrum, we have the most climate friendly production of meat in the world, because of our grass-fed cows and our grass-fed beef as well. So, and farmers, growing up in a farm, you know, we grew all our own vegetables. My mother made bread every day, you know, and I'm sure a lot of listeners that are thinking about their parents and come from the country, that was the lifestyle. So it does sadden me when I hear this attack on the farmers. And, you know, I suppose my ears are always attuned to the, you know, I still have the voice of this farmer who's with his daughter, and he, like, the stress in his voice because of, you know, the loss of his livelihood around the beef debacle there and all of that, you know. So in my view, today, the average food budget is about 1/6 of our budget, whereas in the past it used to be about 1/3. Okay, so food is nearly too cheap, you know, and so we need to look at our whole system of food security, and you know, and for us growing up, you know, you didn't eat meat every day. That was your income, so you had meat at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
Catrina,
maybe
tell me this. Do you think Ireland is going to be a different place going forward? Do you think the stillness and the big pause has done us all good? Or I was reading an article actually yesterday, I think in the Sunday Indo, and it was talking about the Asians are crushing back into all the malls and the Gucci bags. They've never sold so many. There was a big article about it yesterday in the Sunday Independent. It made me feel physically sick that people would be back doing that again. I really just lose faith in humanity when I hear stuff like that. Do you think in Ireland that we're capable of changing how we operate and shop and drive our cars and fly and the whole thing? Are we capable of change?
I think it's really hard to change, you know, for all of us. I think it's the biggest thing. Like reflecting on Ebola in I was working in the NGO world during the Ebola crisis, and you know, armies came in, there was huge lockdown, economy stopped for virtually, you know, 9 months to a year. And you know, on the positive side, people do come back, and you know, like I visit Sierra Leone post Ebola, and you know, hugely resilient people, and you know, the Africans are hugely resilient people, and people are all over the world are. So I think we will all come back to this. You know, I think the economists talked about the 90% economy, but I mean, do I see change? I see us going back to 90% of our behavior, but if there's a 10% change, I think that's good. I don't see a big revolution of change. You know, the optimistic part of me wants to think we'll do all of that, but I think the reality is people will want to get on their planes. People might think twice a little bit about, do I need all these clothes that I have? But look, you know, but even if there's a 10% change, I think that's good.
Yeah, is it good enough?
Probably not.
Is it good enough for the planet?
Probably not. But I do think, in fairness, the scientists might be listened to a little bit better now. Mm-hmm. And they are telling us, but I suppose my heart is, you know, we need to look at technology changes here that create the behavioral changes, you know. So you know,
how do technology changes create the behavioral changes? Sorry, talk to somebody who's dopey at technology, but explain that to me.
Well, you know, the interesting thing, like I'm going to take something like the area of trust, for example. So, you know, trust, this whole issue of trust. So there's very low trust in the world, and this has been declining for the last number of decades. And you know, we trust people we know, we trust at a local level, we tend to trust more at a local level, and then institutions took over the trust. And you know, um, and what's happening now is much more of a distributed trust. So new business models like Airbnb, you know, where you actually would allow a stranger to come into your house, and equally that you would go into a stranger's house. But how is that moderated? And I think this is where technology comes into play. So like I know Airbnb are going through layoffs right now, but it's just showing a kind of different model of trust, that when it's out on the internet, then people know who to trust and who not to trust.
Okay.
So I think, you know, that's kind of a big area that's evolving now, and I think will continue to grow as well. And I think governments are starting to see, you know, how can we show more accountability and transparency in what we're doing, and technology has a great role to play there. Like I'm going to take something like the passports. You know, there was a time when you actually had to lobby your local politician to kind of get your passport quicker than needed, whereas now we actually have the technology. So that power is kind of taken away, because the power of technology actually enables you to get your passport really quickly. So
my son works in London and for LinkedIn. He was telling me last night, which I didn't know, because he hates when I quote any kind of fake news. It drives him nuts, because again, he's hugely interested in the fact that all of our trust, that fake news has caused so much havoc in the world. And by making people not trust, it's when then the big animals can come in and put ideas in our heads. And then that's how you end up with presidents like, you know, Donald and Boris and all the rest of them, because people really don't know what's true anymore. But Mikey was saying last night that in Facebook now, and I wasn't aware of this, that if you read something that says, like, if you inject Dettol, you get better, that you then get a notification to say that that's fake news. That they're now, I didn't know they were doing that, but they're notifying people now to say that that's fake news, because up to this point, people have no idea what's fake news and what's not fake news. They really have no idea. And a lot of people just believe exactly what they read and don't research it any further. So really, it's up to these big guys there's a massive responsibility on those people, Catrina, to actually be trustworthy.
Well, this is it. You know, my son's schools, they have a great saying is, "We trust you, but you must be trustworthy."
Exactly.
And I think, you know, this is where government and tech and citizens need to work together. And, you know, regulation has come very late to the tech industry. Like if you look at the nuclear industry, if you look at the health sector, you know, there's been all these ethics, there's been all of these frameworks around the risks of that. But it's coming very late to the internet, partly because people, you know, maybe that they didn't necessarily pay enough attention to the power of the internet, but they are now, and it is coming. And I think, you know, the fact that people can subscribe onto these networks in a fake way, you know, if you're putting yourself out there, as I used to say to my kids, you know, when you put something on the internet, you know, you may as well walk out on that road in front of the house and shout out what you're saying. So I think that, you know, the big issue is there's a lot of fake accounts and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we do need good regulation.
Yes, I know, but Catrina, we also have world leaders that are spouting fake news. Like, there has to be regulation. I mean, the trustworthy word, I mean, this is the problem also, isn't it? When people can say anything they want just for their audience to hear it.
Yeah, but I think what's happened, so a number of weeks ago, there was a video put out, and now the technology is there to say, actually, this has been doctored. you know.
Okay, yes.
So it's a case of, you know, that, and it does often take a while, but the technology is there to do it.
Yeah.
You know, we just need everyone to kind of say, okay, there's a consequence. You know, it's back to the behavioral thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the regulatory pieces, you know, how do we build trust?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I am a big, so there's been a lot of negative around tech, and you know, certainly my kids, your kids, we as parents have been guinea pigs in all of this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the humanity of tech has been coming into play here as well. So we have seen the power of technology here to be used in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and we need more of that. And I agree with you, you know, where there are bad outcomes, and you know, as technologists, and that's why I suppose I'm passionate about being an actor in the technology area, because what we need is, you know, more thought around actually what are the unintended consequences of technology, and how do we risk mitigate against those unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully there will be more thought process, and that's why we need more women in tech. We
Mm-hmm.
need more women as founders in tech. And you know, I consider myself a Luddite. I struggle with it, but I do feel, you know, it's hopefully a
Mm-hmm.
space that we continue to see more women involved.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you don't need to know how to write code. I don't know how to write code,
Mm-hmm.
but you do, you know, we all understand business models and what's a good business model, and what's an equitable, you know, is a business model with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I suppose Nafasi is a social enterprise, which is actually kind of bringing the purposefulness of government, you know, or kind of public sector, with, I suppose, the innovation and the tools of private sector coming to bear. And that's why I suppose I'm hoping to see more social enterprises emerge as a result of this, because it's a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that you're not feeding the market system or feeding your own pocket. You earn money, but actually the money goes back into the enterprise, you know, to reach more people, to create more impact.
You. Good for you. I can't let this go on forever, because I'll never be able to post it on Facebook, Catrina, or Instagram. And it's just interesting for people to listen to it. So yeah, well, we need to find multimillionaires who are going to come behind us all and allow us change the world, Catrina. That's what we need.
Yeah, and we need to lobby our governments to be putting more money into social enterprises. So Ireland just delivered its first social enterprise policy in 2018, and but we now need to see the funding behind that.
Okay. Do we have a Minister of Social Enterprise?
Yeah, we do. It would not. We don't have a minister. It's sitting under business innovation. But
Yeah.
look, it's an area that's increasingly been looked at. But we just need to
Yeah.
continue to lobby. That's the space that
We need
I'm
to
in.
put you on the poster. We need to put you on the poster. You need to be in that space, definitely.
Well,
Anyway,
there's plenty more. There's Food Cloud is a great social enterprise.
food
You know,
class.
that's
Yeah, it is a great
Food
idea.
Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where they're taking all that wastage in food, we waste about a third of our food, maybe less today because we're home a lot more to manage the
Yeah,
waste.
exactly.
But and that's been recycled back to charities and back to people in need. So
Good example.
that's a great example, and it uses technology to pick up, like it's you know, a combination of warehousing and technology, and that's what enables that.
Good
So
for
we
them.
need more of those kind of
We need
organizations.
more women like you on our planet. And thank you. You've been a mentor to me for I don't know how long. Are we 50, certainly 15 years, I'd say. You've been fantastic. Anytime I'm in a panic, or anytime I'm not knowing the direction, you'll answer a text at 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. or wherever I am that I'm sending them to you.
Well, Deb, you are so I've had the privilege of being with Debbie in Russia, and just the transformation of the kids like they have this mom. And just, I suppose, having the privilege of seeing that in action. And I know Terry
McMahon
recently
oh
wrote a beautiful article on this, you know, just
magnificent, wasn't it?
Magnificent. And I remember I attempted to write something after that, but it was all about, you know, the love of you and all of those people surrounding you, and all your magnificent volunteers, including marching, you know, and how love can transform people's lives. And I think, you know, ultimately, Nafasi is saying, we love entrepreneurs. We're going to put our arms around you. We're going to mentor you. We're going to provide you with startup money. And in return, you know, a bit like the levers in To Rush with Love, is like, we expect you to do your side of the bargain as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to leave it there, Catrina. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Stay well.
Stay well. Keep safe.
Say hello to that wonderful mother of yours. She's amazing.
She's doing great at the moment. We have her all tucked away, so she's doing fabulous at the moment. So listen, thanks a million, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, Catrina. Bye.